Yeah, I mean, I thought last week we did some good things and we did some things that we need to improve. One of our biggest focuses over the last 2 weeks has been to improve our rebounding. We have taken some significant steps in that. We out-rebounded La Tech, I believe, by double figures, and we ended up being even on the boards against Middle Tennessee. So that was some really great progress to see. You know, the other big conversation we're having is how we can improve offensively. If you would have told me that we would hold Middle Tennessee to 46 points and 3 made threes on the year and we would lose, I would have told you were crazy. Now, that's a credit to them. Obviously, they're a great team, great program. But we did everything we needed to do in that game to win on the defensive end. But our offensive issues, you know, are still there. A lot of it is self-controlled. Our pace hasn't been great. Our attention to detail in what we're running hasn't been great. But some of it is on me, too. I need to make some adjustments. I haven't had a lot of opportunities because of the way that our schedule has been. So hopefully this week we can make some adjustments so we can get some more movement on the offensive end. But I do believe that, you know, we have a big opportunity where if we continue to play defensively the way that we are and can just, you know, we just need to get better 1-2% on offense. And you're looking at, you know, 6 to 8 point, you know, differential versus, you know, 1 possession game. So that's our focus. You know, we're disappointed losing that one to Middle, but, you know, still really positive and really excited about this week.
Coach, this game against Western, it's for first. So does that give the team a sense of added motivation going into this game, knowing that you've played them before and you know kind of what they're going to run to?
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, they're excited. You know, we talked in film right before I came in here, you know, that we're 9-2, and that's a credit to us. You know, our kids have worked really, really hard, and they've really bought in conference play and done the things that they need to do to be 9-2. But we also know our margin for error has been small. It's not like we're blowing teams out. And so I think that they understand that, that, you know, 1, we are a really good team, but 2, we need to keep getting better. And if we don't have the focus and the attention to detail and the discipline that's necessary, Western can easily come in here. Marshall can easily come in here and beat us. It's not like, you know, those were blowout games. Those are 2 really good teams. Obviously, first, the attention is on Western Kentucky, but, you know, it's a big week.
Coach, kind of looking, you know, Pacific player in Kiki McKinney, you know, she's been a big part of the defensive plan. How is she moving forward, too, not just this game, but how can she be a big factor, especially when you're down the stretch in a lot of these games, especially Western Kentucky is a game that could go down to the wire?
Yeah, Kiki is the defensive player of the year. We need to start pushing that. We need to start saying that. You know, I haven't seen a few teams in the league yet, but there's no better defender in this league. Her ability to change the game on the defensive end, she gives our team confidence because they know, you know, if they make mistakes, she's going to be back there in the paint. But it's not just her block. I mean, it's easy to look at her block shots, right? Some of those have been incredible. She's had game-saving block shots for us. But it's her rebounding, it's her activity defensively. The number of deflections that she gets that, again, you know, she cleans up defensive mistakes that we make when we make them. And then just her presence overall. I mean, she gives our team confidence by the way that she talks, by the way that she's just, you know, navigating everything. She's going to be huge, and she knows that. You know, I like to say a lot that our team goes as Jada goes, but on the defensive end, we go as Kiki goes.
Coach, the last 5 games are the ones that are crazy close, and you played 4 of those teams again before March 2nd.
Yeah.
Is that easier, harder, the same? Does it even out? Does it matter? What is the thought process having 4 of those teams again coming up before the regular season ends? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think, you know, would my players answer differently than me? Maybe. You know, for me as a coach, you know, I move on. I move forward. You know, I'm not necessarily thinking about that in terms of, oh, we played them and it was close and how's it going to go down. Like, you know, I'm analyzing the film. I'm looking at how we can improve, and I'm thinking about the next game. You know, I'm always kind of forward thinking when it comes to that. So, you know, does the past, you know, have some effect? Of course, because it helps improve your game plan, change some things. But every game is a new game. and every day is a new opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know how much a small sample size like 5 would change things, but how much emphasis was put on situational stuff in practice before this 5-game stretch, and has anything changed since then?
That's a great question. This is probably the least I have done situations in practice. I typically do it a lot, and we did it some early, but I think a lot of it comes down to, being veteran. And, you're looking at players who have gone through these situations before. Obviously, Tay and Jada were in a bunch of these last year. But even Kiki and Michaela and, other folks that are in there. I mean, Lena was part of that last year, JC. They've been in a lot of those situations. So, they draw on that a lot. But they're also highly coachable. We go into those situations and, almost every single time, y'all, they have executed exactly what I've asked them to do. And for them to do that over 5 games consistently, even Middle Tennessee, we executed it exactly right. It didn't fall. It didn't go our way that time. But we did everything right to put ourselves in a situation to win that game. And that's a credit to our players. They've been just top-notch when it's come to those situations.
Kara, looking at your numbers, and we talk a lot about the positives and the things that have gone right for you guys and your team. But the home record in conference, 3-2, when you guys are perfect on the road. Do you even entertain the thought of trying to simulate a road environment for the team when you're at home to try to keep them? What's been the difference for your team when you've been away from home?
I don't know. It's tough to look at. You can really dive deep into it and think about it and say, why have we lost a few at home? And even in non-conference, we've lost some at home that we normally, don't do. We have an 80% winning percentage in Halton Arena. So I think as a coach, you kind of can dive into that and try to figure it out, or, you just challenge them to be better. And I think I'm more like, let's just be better. Middle Tennessee was a 1-possession game. ODU was a couple possession games, and we played horrible in that game. So I don't know. I don't know if this is the right answer, but I don't want them to be like, oh, we're at home and we're not as good, or oh, we're on the road and we're better. I just want them to be their best version of themselves regardless, of where they are. And so that's kind of been my focus.
And as you look ahead to this weekend in particular, and, it's been touched on, Western, you guys got your first ever win on the road over there, trying to make that a season sweep. What does that mean? What would that mean to your team and being able to pull that? Because, Western comes in nipping at your heels.
It would make us 1 game better than them. I know, Mike, you're looking for this big, this is going to mean we're playing for March. That's what's going to mean the world to us, is getting in position in March. So, I don't think we can make Western about we get to sweep them, and if we win this game, that, to me, that's not what it's about. It's about we'd be 1 game better than them, and that's a really good thing at this time in year. So, just, again, we got to stay narrow focused right here, and that's what I talked to our players about today. This really isn't about anybody else. We have to make it about us. The close games have been mistakes we've made. The fact that we were in a 1-possession game against Middle Tennessee were mistakes that we made. So I really think at this point we need to be locked in on ourselves, how we can improve, what we can, because we're in control. Not just of the conference race being in the lead right now, but we're in control of how we play, and that's what we need to focus on.
This year, no different, but you guys typically schedule really hard at the beginning of the season, non-conference. How much does that help you in stretches like these where we keep referencing how many close games you guys have played?
It helps us tremendously. You would ask our players, they'd say the same thing. Even though in those tough conference game or non-conference games, we didn't have a ton of situational, but we went through some really hard stuff. Being 4-6 in the non-conference, we got our butt beat a couple times. It makes you really look at yourself and decide, what do you want? How do you want it? And I do think now that we're in these situations, our players are able to draw, on that adversity and on those obstacles that we went through. And it's brought them together so that when the times get tough, we're pretty tough. Our kids believe in themselves. They believe that they can win regardless of the circumstances. And that's a special thing.
Coach, obviously last year was a lot different than this year just because of COVID and all this stuff, different cancellations. But it seems to be that, you've had a lot of great stretches and both seasons you've had tough non-conference schedules, but is there any difference from last year to this year when it comes to really grinding these games out, or is it kind of just being on a normal schedule finally and not having to worry about cancellations every other week?
That's a really good question. I think the minute that we start thinking, oh, there's not going to be cancellations, there's going to be one. No, I don't mean it like that, but I think again, we just have to have a more narrow focus. Looking at that big picture, comparing seasons. There's just too many. There's too many things. We don't know when COVID will jump again. We don't know. We don't know what could happen. And I think it's hard to compare season to season. I think again, let's have a narrow focus. Let's focus on the here and now. What are we doing today? Yes, we can draw on some experiences. We just talked about that. Can we draw on? We were in a ton of tough games last year. We probably won about half of those. Has that helped us this year? Absolutely, no doubt about it. So that is important to draw on. But, generally, I'm more of like here and now, and let's focus on today.
Coach, I know you said after the loss on Sunday that, Tay saw a lot of double teams. Is there anything that you've worked on so far in practice this week to maybe get her in one-on-one situations to where, she can go do her thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, the scouting report is out on Tay. Anytime she dribbles, she's drawing 2 or 3 people. And so some of that is her just knowing that, recognizing it, watching film, being able to make the extra pass, which she's going to have to do some. And I thought, she did that at times well against Middle. But I think, the other adjustment is just, finding ways to maybe get her on the move more. So, the defense can't just be, solely focused on where she is, and it's easy to help on her. So we're working on some of that stuff this week.
Kara, I asked this of Ron as his team is, kind of approaching the stretch drive here towards the conference tournament, and his team has not had the kind of success that your team has had to this point. Is there anything that you, as a coach, maybe focus on differently? I mean, you mentioned you're playing for March, but in terms of the preparation of your team and the practice times that you're going to get as spread out as it is going to be over the last 7 games, is there back of the playbook stuff that you have that you might want to pay more attention to that teams may not have seen as you maybe try to change up? You're still going to be based on your fundamentals, but is there other? I mean, do you prepare for maybe having another plan when you get into closer to tournament time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, once you get to tournament time, everybody knows pretty much everything about you, or they should. As D1 college coaches, we should know everything about our opponents, and I think that's what makes tournament time obviously so difficult. That we in some ways I feel like we've gone through a tournament already with all of the game close game situations, but I do think that you need to as a coach you have to be ready to make adjustments. As subtle as they can be. I mean, we made a tiny adjustment to one of our plays against Middle Tennessee that scored us a bucket and should have gotten us free throws at the end of the game, and it just didn't go our way. So, I don't think it's necessarily major things, but just little ways to tweak, because you also don't want to overload your team either, right? It's a very fine line of, all right, this is what we're good at. Let's stay consistent with what we do and how we do it and what we know, but how can we just make some tweaks that might throw our opponent off without overwhelming our team?
One last question for me, Coach. I'm going to butcher her name, but the guard, Morel, for Western Kentucky. She was all over the place last game, and I just wanted to know if there's any kind of adjustments that maybe you guys want to zone in on this time around. She's also coming off a couple big games. Will that be a point of emphasis when it comes, right now, looking at film and going into this week? Yeah, she's a really great player. She's been good for them throughout her career, but with the team they had this year, she's had to really bring it up notches, and she's done that. I've been really impressed with how she's played. She was a huge focal point last time, and I think she still had, 20 and I don't know how many rebounds. But she's hard. She's really a difficult guard because she's so active. She never stops moving. She plays extremely hard. She's the type of kid that's she's going to score 20, but she's going to get 8 to 10 in transition just because she runs hard every time. She's going to get 6 to 8 at the free throw line because she drives so hard. Then you fill in, maybe a 3, a couple other baskets, boom, she has 20. So we know her game. We know what she's good at.
controlling her is hard because of how well that she's playing. Last game we mixed up our defenders on her, and I thought that helped us because of how hard she plays. It's hard to just put one person on her. But yeah, that's going to be a really important part of our scout.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you, everybody.